Hi everyone, my name is JoJo and I'm not an internet person, so excuse me if I sound a little bit off or a little bit nervous. I don't usually do videos or post videos or talk in front of a camera. Well, not since middle school at least. But I just want to come on here and tell my story about depression during pregnancy and slight postpartum depression. A lot of people talk about depression after pregnancy, like postpartum, but they don't really speak on depression during pregnancy. A lot of people don't, well, a lot of people do know because there's a lot of women out there with children, but it doesn't come easy with pregnancy. I feel like depression during pregnancy is harder than postpartum depression because you still have to care for yourself and care for your baby that's in you at the same time. Where if you have postpartum depression, you can have help. You have to focus, you could focus on yourself and have help with someone else focusing on the child, like the child's father, your friends and your close family. But when you're dealing with it while pregnant and you have to take care of yourself and your growing baby, it's a little bit more difficult, especially because you have all these change in emotions and all these mental changes and physical changes also that kind of wear you down and make it harder to see stuff like in a positive light, I would say. I think most people like that goes through the postpartum depression, well, it doesn't really have a like a section like age and where you're from and this and that. It's just your state of mind at that point, I'm guessing. But it usually typically hit young mothers harder and single mothers harder, I feel. From the people I have spoken to, most likely it's mostly younger mothers and single mothers that I feel like get it harder because I could see they're young. They feel alone, especially when you're pregnant. I'm 25 and I'm married. When I had my son, I was married. And I've never felt so alone. I had family, friends, close to me, people who were looking out for my well-being, but yet I still felt alone. So I could only imagine the people who actually are alone. And when you really think about it, you're never really alone because you will always have God looking out for you. He's your best friend and your closest family. And don't forget that. But I would say I was fine in my pregnancy till about 4 months. 4 or 5 months? 4 months. When they told me that I had a placenta previa. If y'all don't know what that is, it's when the placenta is blocking I would say the part where the baby comes out. Like when you push to have the baby, your placenta is laying there. So it brings a high risk to the mother and the baby. I would say that's when everything started to kind of not go downhill completely, but kind of gave me like a shift in emotions. Sorry if I keep looking back, my son is back there playing. Kind of give you a shift in emotions. I've always had this picture like of when when I got pregnant, how I would be and what I would have been doing. Like I would be having maternity shoots, buying all the pretty maternity outfits and stuff like that. And it wasn't my mindset. And plus I was pregnant in the middle of a pandemic. So that that kind of helped with, I would say, depression. And when you're battling depression, I won't say you're battling depression, but more as in, I don't believe depression is a state of mind. I believe depression is a spirit, like a spirit of depression trying to attack you at your weakest. But I won't say your weakest, but your most vulnerable position, your most vulnerable state, I would say. And being pregnant with all your changes that you're going through, and it's not easy going through all those changes of emotions, the self-doubt, the everything that you go through while being pregnant kind of takes a toll on you and give the spirit of depression a room to kind of creep in. I would say I got over it more simple than some women, I would say, because I am a praying woman and I did keep God first. And that's how it was easier for me to get out of that state or to rebuke that spirit out of my life. Because where there is God, there is joy. And where there is joy, there's no room for depression. So I would say yes, it started when I had the placenta previa, and that's when everything started just. So they told me I had a placenta previa at like 4.5 months pregnant. I think it was right before they told me the gender of my son. And it kind of scared me because doctors tend to do that, to scare you first and then try to reassure you later. That they told me that I might need a C-section if he doesn't turn before my due date. Not even my due date. I think she said 2 weeks before my due date because they don't want to risk me going into labor on my own. Now, so I would have, if he didn't turn by like 37 weeks or something like that, they was going to have to prep me for C-section. And that right there, like, I've always had this, I would say, idea of how a natural birth was supposed to be, no epidural. I wanted the natural birth, to push him out naturally, no epidural or none of that. And I feel like I got the complete opposite of everything that I had planned. But like I said, when you have God in your life, things don't go as you plan because it's not your will, it's His. And He has the last say and He has the best say. So, and I don't regret what I went through with my son. I'm actually happy that it went that way because he's here now. And if it was God's plans, so be it. And I would say after they told me that, all I thought about was C-section. Oh, I won't get to push out my baby. And how much pain I was going to be in. I thought of all of that beforehand. And I am prone to blood clots. So I was also taking, what was it called? It was a blood thinner. I had to give myself a shot in the belly twice a day. What was it called? Lovenox. A Lovenox shot in the belly twice a day because I was prone to blood clots. Because I had one before. Not during pregnancy. This is my first child. But I had a blood clot on birth control. And that's how I ended up pregnant. But that's a story for another day. Yeah, so with getting these shots in my stomach every day, finding out I had a placenta previa, and thinking about how my birth plan was not going to go as I expected it to go, and all that drew a lot of sadness and kind of anger to me, like thinking about, how things never go my way. So yes, I was very, very sad, but I didn't let it be known. Like when people talk about it, I just kind of brushed it off. Like, yeah, it's fine, this and that. I would say, it's God's will. Whatever he wants to do, he wants to do. You know, you think like that and you say it, but sometimes your mind, your heart, I would say, have a difficult time agreeing with it. So that brought a lot of sadness. And at that point, and I felt like I was alone. Like I had no one to speak to and no one to like go to. I spoke to God, of course. And every day I told him, may his will be done. But I felt like I did not really mean it. I just said it, but I didn't mean it. So I did, like I said, I'm married, but I felt so alone. Like I had no one to talk to. And my husband is a very easy person to talk to. But I felt like he would always go more towards the positive side. Like, oh, everything's going to be fine, this and that and this and that. And sometimes, I don't know if it's just me, you want to hear somebody agree with you, not just like, even though he's telling you the right things, you just want to hear someone agree with you. And just like, oh, it's as terrible as you making it seem. Even though that wouldn't help, but you want to hear it. So that was, those two things were my main reason of being so sad during my pregnancy. And then all the change in hormones and emotions. And sometimes I would just sit there. And everybody who knows me, I'm a pretty tough cookie. I don't really cry. I'm not really into being sensitive. It's hard for me to be sensitive or kind of sentimental towards other people who's sensitive. Like I have a best friend. She's very sensitive and I always tell her, suck it up, crybaby. So it's like, for me to be in that vulnerable state and to be so sensitive over everything. And so sometimes I would just sit there and cry for no reason. Like I would have no reason to cry, but I would be crying. I would just be filled with such sadness and such loneliness. So after I had my, when I was 7.5 months, 7.5 months to 8 months pregnant, my placenta moved. So I was no longer at risk for C-section because the placenta moved. So now they told me I was able to have a natural birth. So you can imagine how happy that made me. So because I am high risk, they do put me in high risk because of the blood clots situation. I was still supposed to be induced. While I was induced, they scheduled me an induction date a week before I was due. And so I kind of accepted the fact that I wouldn't just have this natural thing where my water would break and I would labor at home like I wanted to do, and kind of just accepted the fact that, okay, I'm going to be induced and so on and so forth. So come to my induction date, come to my induction date, I was prepped and ready, got everything ready, my house ready and everything. So when I got to the hospital, they induced me, and at 3 centimeters, my water broke on its own. And when I was 5 centimeters dilated, my son's heart rate kept dropping low. I don't know why. The doctors didn't know why, because everything was fine. I had a normal pregnancy and everything. So I took the epidural. I called in the nurse and told them I want the epidural. Not because I was in that much pain, but because my son's heart rate kept dropping. I don't know. I thought it was because of how much pain I was in. His heart rate was dropping, because they said every time I had a contraction, his heart rate would drop. So after I got my epidural, it didn't work. It didn't help at all. I felt every contraction. It didn't work for me. his heart rate kept going down after the epidural, and it kept dropping and kept dropping and kept dropping. And they told me that I was going to have an emergency C-section. Now, at that state, I was devastated. I was very, very sad and very, very angry. But like I said, I'm a praying woman, so I left it all to God. At that moment, I was no longer kind of saying, may your will be done, and not believing it. I meant it this time, because I was like, I've tried on my own everything to make this pregnancy as not normal. I wouldn't say normal, because I don't think there's no such thing as a normal pregnancy. Pregnancy is pregnancy, and it's always, even if you have a regular pregnancy, like an easygoing, it's always complicated in some way. And I said, may your will be done, Lord, for real this time, because I'm tired. So they prepped me for emergency C-section. I was very sad, very, very heartbroken, because I wanted to push my baby naturally. I'm pretty sure most women, that's the route they prefer to go. But some of us just aren't that lucky, or that's not what God wants for us. So after they prepped me for emergency C-section, they took me in. And after I gave birth to my son, I was so heavily sedated. Like, my husband changed his first poop diaper, did most of his first everything. And mind you, I had an epidural before I went into emergency C-section. So it was like, and then they gave me something else that made me so drowsy and stuff that I couldn't even hold my son when he first came out. Like, they had to put him in my arms and hold my arms up to him. And I remember being in the hospital bed like a day after my son was born. I ended up staying in the hospital for 3 days. Everything was good afterwards. Surgery went well. Everything was good. But I remember my second day in the hospital and looking at my son and seeing how I was happy. I'm not gonna lie, I was happy at the moment. I was very excited, very happy that he was healthy, and just the sweetest baby ever. But the next day in the hospital, getting in and out of bed to take care of my son was super difficult, and that kind of irritated me, I would say. Kind of stressed me out a lot, because I felt like I should be able to get out of bed when my baby's crying, to get in and out of bed. There you go. He's starting up. He's tired. Come here, Pop. So Pop, come. I'm sorry, y'all. Come on. Come on. He's learning how to walk, y'all. But like I said, it made me very sad that I couldn't get up and take care of my baby. I had to stay in bed. I tried walking around. I was in so much pain, and I have a high pain tolerance. I was very sad that I could not get in and out of bed. I had to have my husband hand me everything and kind of try to guide my husband through what he was doing and stuff. So when they did discharge us, I was in a more positive state of mind. And then it's when I got home, the first week was very hard. My husband only stayed home for a week, his first week, which was fine, because I know he has to go back to work. The bills got to get paid somehow. And I don't know. I just the first week was okay. I was in the most pain the first week. I was sad. I cried sometimes because it was hard to get in and out of bed. But after the first week, getting up and doing what I needed to do was a lot more easy. But after my husband got back to work, I feel like the loneliness. Yeah, you have your baby here with you, but the loneliness kind of crept in. Like, my best friend stayed with me. She took a week off work to stay with me the week after my husband went back to work. But the loneliness crept in, and the sadness and all these overwhelming emotions, like, I don't know where they came from, just kind of hit me all together and just kind of brought me back into a darker space. And all I could do, I guess, I kind of kept it to myself because I didn't want to worry anybody. One day my sister did call me and she was like, I just want to check on you. You know, everybody's checking on the baby, and I just want to make sure, like, you're not going through postpartum depression, and, like, are you okay? And I told her, yeah, I'm fine. But I wasn't really fine. I cried a lot, to myself, though. And I prayed a lot because at the end of the day, like I said, I feel like depression is a spirit that tries to attack you when you're most vulnerable. And I felt like at this state, I was so vulnerable. It felt like it could attack me. But I stayed in prayer. I kept the Lord in everything that I did. At random times when I was showering, I would be crying, like, not knowing why. Every time I washed my C-section scar, I would feel so down just because I had to have this. Like, I didn't experience a natural labor or nothing like that. So one day I woke up and I was just sad. And I was like, what's the reason for me being so sad? Like, I have all my friends and family around me. Everyone's trying to help. I have my husband is here. He's trying to help my in-laws. Like, I had everyone around me, but yet I was so lonely and so sad. So one day I spoke to God and told him, like, this feeling, like, it's not it, and I don't want it anymore. I broke down one day in the shower, and I told God that that's not what I want. And then I cast out the spirit of depression, and I spoke to the spirit of depression as if it was a person standing in my face. Told them off and told them to go back to where they came from. And that helped a lot. And the reason I'm saying this is because I met a girl, like, I would say like 4 weeks ago, a month ago, 4 weeks ago. She was telling me how she went through depression while pregnant. And she felt like she was by herself. Like, everyone around her never said that they went through it. And that's with me too. No one around me told me that they went through postpartum depression or even depression after having children. And I feel like maybe that's why it was so hard for me to tell anyone. And that's why I kept it to myself. Because maybe, I don't know if I felt like maybe it wasn't like you're not strong if you go through that. But that's not the case. It's not. It's not. It's not because you're not strong. And I know that now. And she was telling me all that she went to. And it kind of made me kind of tear up because I remembered my situation after I had my son. And how it took me like 3 months to get over it. How I felt and everything. All the sleepless nights kind of bring more depression upon you and stuff like that. And she was telling me how she had no connection with her child after she had him. And I was like, lucky for me, I didn't experience that. But there are other mothers who do go through that, and it's normal. It's not like something's wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Sometimes you just got to speak to the spirit of depression and tell it to walk out your life, because there's no room for it here. And it's absolutely okay to be sad. It's absolutely okay to cry, because it's not easy. It's not. I remember times, like, it's not even about, I remember times where my son would be crying. He had acid reflux, severe acid reflux. And I would be crying to myself, like, is it my fault because I didn't breastfeed? And I feel like that was one thing. Everybody made it seem like breastfeeding was this big thing, which I guess it is, but I didn't breastfeed. And I felt like, is that the reason that he could have acid reflux? But I noticed it was nothing that I was doing that was wrong. It was just his body that wasn't, I guess, doing what it was supposed to do at that time. But right now, he's good. He's good. And it gets easier. It does. It gets easier, and it's okay. Just don't let depression get the best of you. Don't lie and dwell in it. It might pass by and try to scare you a little, but you have to have the strength to tell it to leave and to walk out your life. And put God first. If you feel lonely, talk to God, because you're never alone. With such a big God who is omnipresent, he is always there, and you're never alone. And you're not doing it by yourself. There's a lot of other mothers who go through what you went through, or who's going through what you're going through. And it's not easy. My son is 8 months now, and it's still not easy. It's easier than before. Let me give you hope. It's easier than before, but it's still not easy. And even if you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, the spirit of depression attacks who it wants to attack at your most vulnerable state. So keep busy, keep busy. And, if you feel like you're feeling down, talk to someone. You could talk to someone in your family. Talk to your husband, your friends, your family. Try to tell them what's going on and how you feel, because that might help also. And first of all, talk to God, because if anyone could change the situation, he can. That's all I have to do. This video is already super long. I didn't think it was going to be this long. I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes, but that's me. When I start ranting and being all over the place, I'm pretty sure this video is all over the place, and I'm not editing it. So, that's all I have to say. You're not alone, and you're not weak. You're strong because of what you're going through. Now keep your head up, and like I said, speak to God. If anyone could change the situation, it's him. And have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you, and God bless.